Hi again, Ian Dagey here, and I want to talk today about something that is very dear to my heart, and hopefully it's dear to your heart too, as a business owner, and particularly a lot of you in the technology community. I've been researching a lot over the past few years about why Canada, in particular, but also around the world, why Canada doesn't have a better, more robust technology community, and especially with a lot bigger players. Oh, sure, we have a lot of medium-sized technology companies, but many of them struggle to grow, and I wanted to know why. There are a number of reasons that many experts state. They say that we don't have a big enough capital market to fund technology companies, and there's no doubt that tech companies need funding. Everybody needs funding, every company. And there are many VCs or venture capitalists that will help tech companies. But many of the entrepreneurs don't want to give up the equity to build their companies. They feel that they've built the technology and therefore they want it all. They figure they've developed a great technology, so why should someone else reap the benefits? American technology companies seem to be more open to outside funding, as do some European and British ones too. And I know this because I've talked to hundreds of technology company owners over the past 25 years. Many still believe if you build it, people will come. And so these tech entrepreneurs, they can do it all themselves. Others say that there are too many government regulations for small business in Canada and possibly in other countries too, including the tax base for small businesses. And again, there's certainly some truth to these claims. But the Canadian government has also introduced a Scientific Research and Experimental Development Tax Incentive Program. That's a real mouthful, isn't it? SR&ED. Many small and medium-sized business companies, it's mostly for manufacturers, which of course technology companies are, and they take advantage of this. But then again, you can't build a business with government grants alone. I believe the majority of tech companies don't really want to get very big. And this, of course, is true with most companies started by entrepreneurs. They reach a certain point and they think, I'm okay now, I'm satisfied with what I'm doing. But if a tech company doesn't get enough traction in its marketplace and soon enough, it would soon become eclipsed by a large number of other companies with similar technology. And as you know, technology companies become obsolete and the time frame for this to happen is shrinking dramatically. So you need to grow fairly rapidly. And this is another failure on tech company owners. Most owners sincerely believe they don't have many competitors or very few competitors. I know this because I've talked to hundreds of tech companies over the past 25 years, as mentioned earlier. But all you need to do is do a Google search rather, to see how many competitors you really do have. So what is really holding our technology industry back? Everywhere. I believe the real reason for the lack of growth in Canada's technology industry and elsewhere, but mostly in Canada because that's where I'm from, is that Canada's tech companies are lousy at sales and marketing. Many tech companies have a sales and marketing department, but it's dwarfed by the technology department. And many have no sales and marketing department at all. Did you know that the two longest lasting and most successful tech companies spend about 21% of revenues on sales and marketing and about 15% on R&D? So they spend 50% more on sales and marketing than R&D. You know who these two tech companies are? They're IBM and Microsoft. Let me repeat that. IBM and Microsoft spend about 50% more on sales and marketing than they do on R&D. And nobody's ever accused either IBM or Microsoft, and I'm sure you haven't, of having the best technology in their field. But they both understand how important marketing and sales are to their success, not just technology. And the largest capitalized company in today's world, of course, is Apple. And why is this? Sure, Apple has some very cool technology, but so do a lot of other companies. In fact, at one time, RIM, Research in Motion, the maker of the first smartphone, the BlackBerry, had a much larger following than Apple. So why is Apple so big? You guessed it, because it has best marketing. And don't get me wrong, Apple spends 3 times as much on sales, marketing, and administration as it does on R&D, 3 times as much. And by the way, when I say marketing, I include 3 areas here. Marketing, obviously, the actual marketing, but also sales and customer service. Everything that brings customers to your business and keeps them coming back is marketing. I always believe that the company should have a chief revenue officer oversee all 3 areas, and because they're also intertwined. Now, getting back to that, don't get me wrong, All of these companies, IBM, Microsoft, Apple, have very good technology. And all of them received some very good funding, and still do. But each of them got into the top of their field because of outstanding marketing. And this is especially true of Apple. Because you can do the same things on other computers, smartphone and tablets that you can do on Apple products. But let me just back up a little bit, and let me give you a little background on me and what I want to get across here. I started my business career at IBM in the mid-1970s, and I was just put through a 9-month training program to learn about IBM's products. But over 80% of the training was really about sales and marketing. IBM, even back then, realized that in order to be successful, they needed to have the best sales and marketing professionals that any company could ever have. And it paid off very handsomely for them. And they had many competitors that had much better technology than IBM had. Two of their competitors had admittedly much better technology. Hewlett-Packard, now simply known as HP, and also Digital Equipment Company, known as DEC or DEC, which has long since been bought. I think actually HP owns it now. In fact, both of these companies, believe it or not, used to raid IBM's executive suite, and they did that for decades, to have ex-IBMers run their companies, because they realized how good and well-trained these executives were. Another successful company, because of their training, was Xerox. But Xerox is not around anymore, as big as it used to be. It's still around, and certainly not as influential, because they haven't adapted their technology to today's world as much as they could have. So technology is important, very important, and it has to be relevant. But it doesn't have to be way out in front. It only has to appear that way through excellent marketing. Again, look at Apple and what they do. What you need to do to be able to do is solve a company's problems with relevant technology. Very seldom does it have to be the newest and best. In fact, there are very few companies that want to be pioneers with technology. That is, your customers. They don't want to be pioneers and be the first to use it. They want to see how other companies are using it before they buy it. That's the reason you need to have social proof, showing how other people have liked your products, services, and customer support a lot of times before other people. And I'm sure you've seen the bell curve about the early adapters, the number of people who don't do it, and then the greater few that, or the greater amount rather, that do it after the early adapters, and then of course the late adapters. But there's another reason that makes successful companies as good and successful as they are. But before we get into that, let me give you some more background. As I mentioned, I've been talking to and working with technology companies for over 25 years now. Very few of these companies really have become as successful as they could have been or could be, and the biggest reason for this is that they really don't believe that sales and marketing people could make them successful. There are many arguments for this, and some of them are very valid. In the 80s and 90s and part of this century, a lot of technology sold itself. Before Y2K, if you were around by then, that's 12 years ago now, most tech salespeople just took orders. They really did, with very little, if any, selling by them. Companies realized they needed technology, their customers needed technology to become more productive, and if sales and marketing people happened to get a sales job with big American companies like IBM, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, HP, Oracle, SAP, etc., they really didn't do a lot of selling. These companies all had great marketing, and the salespeople really were never more than glorified order takers. So if they ended up with smaller companies after they left these big companies, then they usually failed miserably. Even in the 1980s, smart companies didn't hire ex-IBMers, although the large companies did, but the smaller companies didn't, until they had at least one other job after IBM, and preferably 2 jobs before they joined your company. These IBMers did not know how to work with small companies. They particularly didn't understand the marketing side of small companies, and almost all of these so-called salespeople failed. Why was that? Well, one of the biggest examples was getting new clients or new customers. If you phoned a company up and said, hi, that you were with IBM, then the people you talked to listened, and you got an appointment relatively easy. But when you phoned up and said you were with, say, ABC Technology Company, after you left IBM, you really had to understand marketing and selling to get an appointment with those companies. And most of the people from large successful tech companies couldn't hack it with smaller companies, and again, they failed. So how do you get someone to help you with the sales and marketing of your technology company? You get someone who has the same passion for sales and marketing and helping you as you do for your own company. How do you figure that out? Let's look at that in some depth so you can ensure you get the right people to help you that understand what they are doing in technology, sales, and marketing. Firstly, let's look at some of the very successful companies. Again, not necessarily just tech companies, but other companies. And they, of course, include IBM and Apple. But what about Nike and Coca-Cola and the rest of those? What makes these companies so successful? In most part, their products aren't really any better or any different than their competitors. A little bit different, but not really a lot much better. In fact, personally, I like Pepsi better than Coke. I have a BlackBerry, and I've not found Nike running shoes as good or any better than other running shoes, but I still buy their products, and so, of course, does most of the world, and probably including you. Why? The large, successful companies that I just mentioned all do something that none of their competitors do. Their competitors play the marketing game of what their products are and how good their products are and the best way to use them. These successful companies know the what and how games too, but they have risen above those company tactics. They know that to be ultra successful, you have to be in the why game. Not the what and how game solely, but the why game. So what is this why game? The why game is when you tell people why you are in business. Not just what to do and how to do it with your products and services. You still have to know the what and the how, but you must convince people to buy from you from a why perspective. So what does this mean, and how do you get people to buy from you from a why perspective? When you get people to buy from you from a why perspective, they're buying your passion and the fact that you really and truly want to help them. That helping them is your life's mission. You're in your business, not to give you a job and not to necessarily make you rich, although there's nothing matter with that, but to help people grow and be successful. Don't get me wrong, as I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong or evil, obviously, about making a lot of money. But if that is your sole reason for being in business, you'll generally fail and struggle and possibly fail. And all this will come through when you're talking to people. If you could convince people of the why, then the what and the how both become secondary. Still important, and again, don't get me wrong, it's important to show people what and how, but convince them of the why, and the what and how comes a lot more easily. Let me tell you about my why. As I mentioned, I've been working with technology companies for about 25 years. Before I started this business, I owned and operated 2 technology-related companies. Both had software and services, and I sold them both successfully. But more importantly, both were really sales and marketing oriented. The technology was secondary to me. Helping other companies succeed, to me, was always of the paramount importance. So after selling my second company, that is when I decided I really wanted to pass on my marketing and sales knowledge to other technology entrepreneurs. And I got to admit, it's been a struggle in this market. And a lot of it has to do with what I talked about at the start of the video. Most tech companies either don't believe they have to spend on sales and marketing, or many of them are skeptical of sales and marketing people for many of the reasons I described earlier. So my why is to help tech companies, and especially B2B knowledge companies, build a better world by becoming successful for their clients. However, if you don't believe you need sales and marketing, then I probably can't help you. But as a technology company, whether you're Canadian or not, if you want to succeed, then you need sales and marketing. And more importantly, you need sales and marketing people who know what they are doing. Unfortunately, because of the circumstances I mentioned earlier, there are too many so-called sales and marketing people out there who don't have a real clue about how to work with small and medium-sized companies, or really don't know enough about sales and marketing in today's world, the connected world, to help you. And I've done a lot of research on that and have kept up on that. And most don't understand how sales and marketing has changed, and that marketing in today's and connected and social media world is more important than sales. And I'm a sales guy. Why? Because when marketing is done properly and well, sales comes very easily. And as I said, I'm an old sales guy originally. We use the word old in a different context. But it took me a long time to see this. So why, after many years of frustration, am I still wanting to work with tech companies who mostly don't seem to want to grow at a pace they could? I'm really frustrated these companies don't trust the fact that they could actually double, triple, possibly even grow by 10 to 20 times their current rate. I know that sounds preposterous, but they could if they would just apply the sales and marketing principles that work. The reason I'm still here is I want to help, and that's what keeps me going. If you're one of those companies, you have to first trust that there are sales and marketing strategies that can help you grow exponentially. Not everybody, but many companies. Whether it's me you call or someone else, by all means, please